the windows open right now, so I can hear the cicadas. I don't think it'll pick up on the mic, but if they are audible, then I'm leaving them in as ambiance. How's it going, everybody? My name is Jack. It's possible you may know me from my main YouTube channel, Loser Man Wins, where I talk about rhythm games, usually Japanese rhythm games. But today we're not talking about any of that. We are talking about learning Japanese. I'm going to be reading off of some documents I have over on this monitor. So if I'm looking away from the camera, that's where I'm looking. This is just a casual recording. We're just going to talk about it and just going to go through what I've got written down here. So as of today, I have been studying Japanese with an immersion method for 6 months. I think I've hit pretty much every day. I've probably missed maybe 1 or 2 days throughout the 6 months. I can check my toggle track, but that's how long I've been doing it. 6 months immersion method. Before I get into my process and my approach and all that stuff, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my history with Japanese and like what I have studied with Japanese before this, since this is my first time making one of these like milestone videos, and a lot of people would like to do that on their first one. So it's not the first time I've tried to study Japanese. In 2015 and 2016, in college, I studied Japanese like by taking a college course for 2 years, so 4 school semesters. So I guess technically it would have been from fall 2015 to spring 2017 because of the way school semesters work in the US. So yeah, went up through, I mean, we were doing mostly Genki 1 and 2 in that, in those classes. Looking back on it now, those were going quite slow in terms of like what they cover. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure like most of like first semester Japanese was like all kana, like there was like not even any kanji at all, or maybe like really basic kanji. So it was pretty like slow paced, I would say. But that was what I was doing for the first 2 years. I kind of got interested in studying Japanese because, I mean, I guess like a lot of people in like high school and early college, I was pretty into anime and obviously games, and was just kind of getting dragged into that sphere. I needed to take a language in college because of the school I was in, or the specific college I was in at my school. So I really didn't want to take Spanish again because I didn't give a single shit about Spanish. But I had actually some interest in Japanese. So I was like, even though I'm going to be starting from zero, because I took high school Spanish, but I was like, even though I'm going to be starting from zero, it's probably a better idea for me to do something that I'm interested in rather than something I will hate for 2 years. So even though I figured it would be harder, and it was pretty hard. I mean, it was a daily class. It was like an hour per day per weekday, and then there was probably an hour or two of coursework every day like after. I actually always say this to people. I think it was the hardest class I was taking in the first 2 years of college, and I was a comp sci major, so like. And it was Japanese. That was the hardest thing I took. It was just a lot of work. So yeah. So I have maybe a little bit of residual knowledge from that, but very little. I mean, like a lot of people, after college, I was like, or after those 2 years of college, I was like, all right, cool. Just gotta like keep studying now and I'll be good. And I didn't do it. And I let it get really rusty, just like a lot of people do. I remembered all the kana. I didn't have to relearn those. I remembered some very basic grammar, and a little bit of vocab and a little tiny bit of kanji, but I knew going into learning again, I was pretty much gonna need to start from zero minus the kana. Like I remembered the kana, but I didn't remember really anything else. Over the years, especially since like 2020, I've been like kind of trying to restart my learning a few different times. I've tried a few times to do Kaishi 1.5k, the Anki deck that most people recommend. I've tried a couple of times to do that. I've tried Wani Kani just to see how I liked it. I was kind of just blindly doing Wani Kani. I wasn't really doing anything else. Last year I tried to start Immersion, but I didn't really stick to it. So I would say, I mean, practically speaking, I wasn't starting from zero, but maybe 1. I was not restarting with much residual knowledge. So I knew I was pretty much have to start from scratch. So I guess I can start talking about my approach. So in terms of my approach, the main thing that I wanted to focus on was I'm someone that makes myself quite busy. Like I have a lot of like random little hobbies that I like allocate time to. And I think especially because I have ADHD, I can struggle to like kind of plan and organize myself. Like a lot of times I'll just do something and because I feel like doing it, and I'll do it for like 8 hours. So I wanted to be careful because I plan a lot of things and do a lot of things impulsively. So I was like, I need to make a plan for something that I can stick to. It might be a little less than some people recommend for like, especially like new learners. They might say like, oh, you should be doing more time than this. But for me, the focus was like consistent, but maybe a bit less time than the average person who's trying to learn Japanese, you know, sort of like the long run approach, right? Which is like, in my mind, I felt like the beginning was going to be the hardest part, like the early stages where you really know nothing, you know, maybe the first like 500 to 1,000 hours of learning a language. I figured that that was going to be the hardest part. So no matter how long it took me to get through it, as long as I was consistent and eventually get through it, then it'll get easier from there. I could be wrong. I'm 6 months in, and you'll see my hour count later. But, you know, maybe I'll be wrong and it'll still be hard after 1,000 hours. But that's the benefit of recording a video like this, is I can look back and say, hey, it was easier or it was harder. So, yeah, that was kind of my mentality going into designing my approach. So in terms of my actual approach, it was inspired mostly by two things. The first thing was Trenton's Learning Japanese is Easy Actually video. I'm sure if you've ever thought about learning Japanese, you've probably seen this video. It kind of went off when it appeared a couple years ago. I've probably watched that video like 50 times by now. It was something that I was watching, and it was sort of just like, eventually it felt like I had kind of processed the information he had in that video to the point where I was like, this does seem like something that's possible for me to do. I think when you are like thinking about learning a language, you kind of look at it and you're like, this is impossible. Like, there is so much to do. It's gonna take me forever. And I think like that video, like Trenton's video, was kind of the thing that made me think finally like, okay, maybe I like actually can do this. Just I felt like it was presented in a way that kind of gives you that inspiration to be like, yeah, like let's do it. I can't really speak to maybe like the quality of it yet. Like I don't know if it's actually good or bad, because I'm only 6 months in. And a lot of these videos kind of go like, they kind of tell you, you have to just trust that it'll work for like a long time before you can actually like see the full results. So I don't know, maybe we'll see when I get a little further along if I actually think that the video has like good advice, but it was at least enough to get me to start. So I can at least give it like praise for that. The other thing that I used as kind of like structure guidance was learnjapanese.moe. Some of you probably saw I actually referenced it in a video on my main channel, but that's like the most commonly recommended like Japanese immersion guide. So I went there for advice on like how to structure my day and like what I was studying. So most of my actual like hard structure came from that website, and I would definitely highly recommend checking that one out. They have like so many resources there, and like even if you're not going to directly follow their approach, like they just have a ton of good stuff there. Anki decks, media recommendations, like all sorts of good stuff. So I used that mostly when I was designing my structure. Okay, so like what was my actual structure? So I knew a lot of these immersion resources, they put immersion first. Like you should be doing as much immersion as you can. And then, you know, like make sure you're doing your daily like Anki and whatever, but like after that you should be just immersing. And so I kind of took that to heart and I just kind of went with that. So I started with Kaishi 1.5K. That's like the recommended deck from learnjapanese.moe. So I went with that. 10 cards per day, new. I felt like I couldn't really do more than that. Even with 10 cards today, the reviews were adding up really quick. I think I got over 100 reviews a day by like 3 months. Like I felt like I was pretty slow at like learning the initial like 1.5K words. Actually well, we'll talk about that, but yeah, it was taking me a while. So I felt like 10 cards was like a good amount. So I was doing Kaishi 1.5K every day. I was doing for grammar, I was reading Take Him. We will talk about that again later, but that's what I was doing at first, was reading Take Him. And then the rest after that was just immersion, like whatever I could get, just immersion. I'll talk about what I actually watched and read, but that was what was after that. My daily goal, like my amount that I wanted to do per day, was 1 hour and 45 minutes minimum. It was an amount that I felt like I could do and not feel like I was putting everything else in my life like aside to focus on. Like, I wasn't just gonna be like studying Japanese for 6 hours a day. Like, I knew I couldn't do that. So I felt like this was an amount that I could reasonably do per day. And that's time included for everything. So like Anki counts for that, like grammar study counted for that, and immersion counted for that, like an hour and 45 minutes a day of Japanese studying. And the reason, for anyone who asks, the reason it's an hour and 45 minutes and not 2 hours is just because I'm someone who, like, if I'm switching between activities or if I'm picking out something to watch or listen to or whatever, I just take too long doing that. And so I knew 2 hours would quickly become like 2.5 hours or something like that. So I was like, I need to do an amount, like a hard amount that I know I can do. And it's separate from that time where I might be like deciding on what I want to watch or play or whatever. So that's why it was an hour and 45 minutes. Also worth mentioning is I actually did have one off day. I chose Friday as my off day where I only did flashcards. I didn't do any immersion explicitly. Like I didn't have any like specific time set aside for that. The only reason is just because Fridays I generally struggle to get myself to schedule anything on Friday because there might be a social gathering or I might be traveling or just something going on Friday. End of the work week, like I don't really want to do anything. I work a full-time job, so sometimes on Friday after work you might just not want to grind studying a language. You might just want to relax. So Friday was only flashcards. That's changing a little now, but yeah, only flashcards on Friday. But like I said, the whole idea of my structure was just to find something that I felt like I could do daily, or at least like regularly. Like I wasn't really worried about a raw amount. I was mostly worried about the consistency, especially because like I'm just someone that struggles with consistency on anything. So I was like, I need to pick something that I know I can do every day. All right, so what are my actual stats? Like, what have I actually achieved in 6 months? So I have finished Kaishi 1.5K. I have seen every card. I think I finished it like 2 weeks ago as of this recording. So it did take me most of the 6 months. I missed a few days here and there, etc. But I did get through all of it. I was personally very happy that I was able to even do that, let alone like everything else. So, yep, I finished Kaishi 1.5K. I'm still doing reviews to make it mature, but like no new cards, amount of cards. Seen every card in the deck. In terms of actual immersion hours, I've got 267 hours total of study. That's including Anki's. I guess I shouldn't say exactly immersion, but that's my total study time, 267 hours, which puts my average at 1.6 hours per day. So a smidge low. I think that the Friday off day drags that down mostly. Most days I was able to get an hour and 45 minutes. So I think it's mostly just the Fridays dragging that average down a little bit. Also, when I was traveling, I would generally, like, if I was on a trip, I would generally only do vocab, maybe a little bit of, like, listening. I'm still sort of now trying to figure out how I want to, like, study when I'm away from my computer, because my computer is definitely how I do most of my studying, due to just the ease of use of everything. So, basically, at some point during the process, I was like, if I'm traveling, at least make sure I do my vocab. Like, if I don't do anything else, just make sure you do your vocab. Like, that was, like, really what I wanted to do. I would say that my main goal in the first 6 months was to finish Kaishi 1.5K. So, if I had a day where I wasn't going to do any, like, regular study, or if I was going to be short of my goal, I wanted to make sure I did Anki every day, even though I did miss a couple days. In terms of what I've actually, like, been immersing with, I have watched 4 anime in full, like, just, like, seasons. I've watched 4 full, like, Netflix TV series. I'll talk about what I actually watched in a minute. I've watched a movie, and most of the rest of my immersion has been largely listening material, podcast listening, and random YouTube content. And that's going to make up the bulk of it. That's why the, like, 4 anime, 4 TV seasons doesn't sound like that much, because a lot of my immersion, like a large percentage, was listening. But in terms of, like, stuff I've consumed directly in Japanese, no English, that's the count. So, I'm guessing if you're seeing this video, you're not going to be in my normal follower base. But on Blue Sky, I've been documenting in a media thread everything I've watched, and kind of it's a media thread for 2025, but it's only for things I've consumed in Japanese. So it's essentially like a study log as well. I've been posting, like, how many hours of immersion I'm at in that thread. So I'm gonna kind of just go through it here, and, like, I'll stop at the ones that I think are worth recommending to, like, people at around my level. or just things that I liked, even though I watched it in Japanese, right? You know, I'm working with like a pretty low level of Japanese, so I just want to talk about like what I was watching, what I was enjoying. So I'll kind of go through that here. So I've watched and listened to like a lot of different stuff. I've been kind of just like looking around for like random stuff to watch and listen to. I've watched like some of the like anime that are recommended to intro learners, like Yuru Camp. I watched was my first one that I watched in Japanese. I thought it was pretty hard, actually, because I was really missing a lot of the like terminology, like the camping terminology and like the equipment. Like I had no idea what they were talking about. It was really hard. I watched A Place Further Than the Universe, which was good. I actually felt like I was doing really well in the first half when they're mostly still in the school, and then once they leave on the trip, I was like it was totally over my head. I was like, I could follow the plot based on the visuals, but I was really struggling to understand what they were saying. I found early on the lack of vocab was just really hard for like tolerating the ambiguity. I was like, I have no idea what they're saying like most of the time. Other anime I watched Super Cub, which is a show about an ad for bikes. Basically, it's just an anime girl who gets into like motorized bikes. It's pretty cute, actually. I liked it, but it was pretty light on like language. Like I feel like it didn't even have like too much dialogue at all. And actually, I did also feel like I was kind of struggling on this one. It's pretty hard. This will be a theme, and I'll get into why I'm specifically mentioning that the anime was hard, because like a lot of people, especially like learnjapanese.moe, or like a lot of people who are recommending Japanese learning to people who are into anime, they just say, just watch a lot of anime. And I totally think you can. I mean, it's great immersion material. I just have some opinions on it for completely new learners, so I'll share those in the next section. But yeah. And then the other anime I watched was the first season of Umusume Pretty Derby. What can I say? The Horse Girls got me too, so I watched an episode of it, or I watched a season of it. It was pretty good. I felt like I was doing better by this point. This one was the most recent anime I watched, but this was just a month ago. So I felt like I was doing better by this point. I knew a lot more vocab. So it wasn't too bad to watch. It was all right. I feel like I could follow most of the plot. In terms of TV that I watched, like just TV series, I was using just Netflix for this. Actually, really cool tip. If you're using Netflix to find Japanese content, I swear, probably one of the best features I've seen on like any normal application that I've been using for learning Japanese is that Netflix lets you sort by original language, which is amazing because Netflix has subtitles for everything that's on there, whether it's anime or just a show. So if you have a Netflix subscription, you can go, this is just on American, like English Netflix, not even like VPN. You can sort by the source language, like the original, and then you can just pick something from there. I thought that was great because I didn't really have any specific shows that I wanted to watch in Japanese that were like live action. So I was like, I'm just gonna go look and see if there's anything that looks interesting. And then when I saw that there was literally a button that lets you sort by like target original language, I was like, this is amazing. So highly recommend for that. Actually, the very first thing I watched in Japanese, like period, was the Netflix series House of Ninjas. It was good. I felt like I could follow the main plot because it's very actiony. It's not super dialogue heavy. In like the middle, there's some stuff that's like kind of about like the actual plot and what's going on. But I mean, you can just watch it for the action and kind of try to listen along and follow along. Totally watchable, even with a low level, I thought. So yeah, it's fine. After that, I think I watched Tokyo Swindlers, which was kind of where I started to have a little bit of a realization about live action. Although, like I said, we will talk about that in the next section. But this one was actually really fun to watch. I felt like even though there was like a lot of language in this one, I didn't understand because it's about like real estate fraud. It was still like really fun to watch. Like there was a lot of like tension. I felt like I could keep up with what was going on, even though like it's pretty fast paced. I really liked the ending. I thought it was totally insane. I find trying to decide whether I like something or not when I watch it in Japanese is a little tricky because I can tell that I don't know exactly what's going on. And so I am a little worried that I'm missing some sort of like key plot points or like good or bad, plot devices, because I might literally just not recognize them. But I can say I enjoyed watching it. So it was really good. I'd say watch it. And then the other series, which I watched 2 seasons of, was Alice in Borderland. Really good. And actually, I actually think this one is pretty good for learners. I watched this after the previous 2. And I felt like compared to those other shows, Alice in Borderland's Japanese, I think, is actually like relatively low level. It didn't have, I mean, certainly I'm not at a crazy high level yet, but it didn't have like a ton of stuff where I like completely washed over me. There are a couple of episodes late in the 2nd season that are really dialogue heavy that I was like really struggling on. But otherwise though, like following the plot was totally not a problem. The 1st season is pretty easy, I'd say, like on level wise, definitely easier than Tokyo Swindlers, or like some of those anime that I watched. I didn't think it was that bad, and I also really liked the show, so I'd like recommend that one to learners. I think that one's really good. The movie I watched was I think it's called Bullet Train Explosion. I think it's a remake of like an older movie, but the idea is just that the bullet train can't stop moving or it blows up. I was struggling a little because the dialogue is really fast paced. It's a very frantic movie. But there is like a plot twist like 2/3 of the way through it, and I actually was able to like understand what was happening in the plot twist, and that was like a very satisfying moment. I was like, oh, I actually like know what's happening, and that felt like it increased my enjoyment of it a lot. So I was like, oh, cool, like this is awesome. And I mean, at that point, I was probably only like 2 or 3 months in, so like I do feel like if you're grinding vocab pretty hard, like you can start to at least enjoy some stuff relatively early, in particular live action, which I keep alluding to it, but yeah, I think I prefer live action, but I will get into that in the next section. Otherwise, listening content. So I'm a little more all over the place here. I'll kind of go off of my toggle track because I have just like a list of like what I've been listening to. First of all, I'll go with the one that I would say that I recommend the most, which is Badonkadonk podcast. This is actually the first podcast I listened to. I'd actually say it partially inspired me to start immersion learning again as well, because I was seeing clips of it on TikTok, and it was at a level that I felt like I could actually understand even back then, some of it. The main reason is because the guy host on Badonkadonk podcast is American, or at least he's like part American. So what'll happen a lot of times is like a lot of the podcast itself, basically the structure of the podcast is the 2 hosts, they talk about, like they'll pick a topic and then they'll talk about the differences between that topic in like America versus Japan. So they'll talk about like school life or cooking or convenience stores or whatever, like things like that. But they'll talk about the differences in Japan and America, which I think is great if you're American, because like you're interested probably in Japanese from an American's perspective, so you get to see like the differences. I think it's super interesting. But the actual reason I think it's really good if you're new or you're early is because the guy host, since he is American and also often teaches the other host slang, sometimes he'll just say some things in English. Most of it's Japanese, like 90% or more, but sometimes he'll like say some things in English or something like that, and I found that really helped pull me back into the conversation. I think something that's hard early on when you're doing a lot of listening is you can kind of lose track of the topic, and then like you kind of just glaze over. You're like, I'm trying to understand what they're saying, but I kind of lost the topic, and I'm trying to like find something to latch onto so that I can like pay attention again. Having just the host occasionally interject with English so you know what they're talking about is amazing for that. It pulls you right back in. And then you're like, oh, okay, I know where we're at again. And you can start listening again and trying to pick things out that you know. Amazing. Totally recommend Badonkadonk podcast. I think my only criticism of it is that the episodes are only like 20 minutes long versus like an hour or whatever. But I found that most Japanese podcast content, like it's not like American or like Western podcasts where it's like multiple hours. Most of them are shorter. So I think it's normal. It's just, it would be nice if there was just more of it, but it's really good. I would recommend. It's also very funny. I think both of them are comedians. It's funny. I recommend it. Really good. Other stuff I've listened to though, like that's the majority, but well, not the majority, but Badonkadonk is my recommended. The majority I've listened to is, Japanese with Teppei and Noriko. Just a commonly recommended, like learner podcast, got pretty low level Japanese, like, I wouldn't say that I understand all of it, but I can now understand a lot more of it, and it's the main thing I've listened to. Most of the reason I picked it is just because it has a lot of episodes and it's on Spotify. So if I'm doing listening like in the car or whatever, and I don't know what to put on, I just default to that. That's what I just go for. It's easy to listen to. It's small episodes. There's a lot of content. I started from like 2021 or something like that, and they're still recording new episodes, so I'm just working my way through it. I think I've listened to like 180 episodes or something like that. They're like 20 minutes or so. I've really done a lot of listening on that. There's been some listening on like random Japanese YouTube channels that I just look up, like interviews or whatever. Like I sometimes I'll occasionally just look up like a topic that I'm interested in Japanese and just find a long video with someone talking, and I'll just put that on in the background while I'm driving or whatever. I try not to listen to stuff while I work because I tend to not be able to focus on multiple things. So most of my passive listening is like while I'm like cleaning or walking or driving or whatever. So I'll do that. And then I would say the main other one that I've listened to, and this one I'd say maybe I will listen to a little bit less now these days or going forward, is IGN Japan's podcasts. So as you guess, I am interested in video games. So I wanted to find like some Japanese content related to video games because I felt like having a topic I was interested would help me just be interested in listening to it. And I think it does help. I will say I think IGN Japan's podcasts are a little beyond my level. I feel like I struggle to pick out a lot of stuff that I know. Like I said, I was mostly just focused on doing something and finding something that I wanted to try to listen to. But I would say out of everything that I consumed, IGN Japan's content was probably the one thing that was like actually above my level. It was like pretty hard. I wouldn't recommend it to new learners. I pretty much only picked it because I felt like it would be something I would want to try to listen to. So yeah, maybe recommend against that one. All right, so let's talk about current level and things I've noticed. So I'm gonna breeze through the current level section pretty quickly. I don't think there's a ton to talk about here. I can be pretty brief, and you've probably gotten a pretty good idea of how I feel about each section from the above. But I guess I'll just go through them. I'm not doing speaking at all right now. Most people recommend against speaking for the first like year or X amount of hours or whatever. I do feel like I'm starting to sub-vocalize very basic thoughts. And sometimes when I'm reading, I will read a little bit out loud just to try. I find that something I'm struggling with reading and speaking out loud is reading along. It's something I'm getting better at just, I think, over time. One thing I think really helps with that is if you watch something with subtitles and then just try to read the subtitles. You might not even process what they are, but like trying to actually like visually time the sentence with the audio, because I find that early, a lot of times what will happen is probably just because of the pace of English subtitles, I'll be like a fourth of the way through reading a subtitle, and then it will change to the next one. And in my mind, I go, okay, I didn't read that fast enough. And I'm not necessarily trying to actually read the sentence when I'm doing that. I'm just trying to consciously register, like, how fast does a sentence's information, like, come out in a subtitle or something like that, if that makes sense. Obviously, there are plenty of times where I do actually try to read the subtitles, but that's kind of been how I've tried to improve my reading speed, I guess, for now. I haven't really started much reading in general yet, so I can just talk about reading now. I have intentionally not done much reading yet. Most immersion resources recommend listening over reading first. I am starting to read now, and I'll get into that. But like that's very new for me, so I would say like that's a big reason that I was just struggling with things like that, and I think it's one of the reasons like sub-vocalizing or like, talking out loud to yourself when you read is really hard. It's because you like it's like you can't like process the information on the page that fast yet. So yeah, I think that'll get better over time. So that's speaking and reading, which are kind of like not really there yet. I guess like general vocab level, I feel like is way higher. Like it's like way better than I've ever had in Japanese. Actually, it's to the point where I think it's outpacing most things that I have like right now. Like I feel like my actual base of vocab is better than like every other part of my Japanese right now. Like even though I'm not doing a lot of reading, I find like I follow a lot of Japanese Twitter accounts, and a lot of times now when I see a Japanese tweet, I recognize like a lot or all of the kanji or like a ton of the words. Like it's still kind of soup because my grammar is still pretty bad. As I maybe alluded to previously, I've been kind of struggling to find a grammar resource that I really like. So what I probably need to do is pick a primer and just read all of it and then just go back to immersing. Like I mentioned, I was reading Take Him and I didn't finish it. And then I tried like Cure Dolly and I didn't finish it. It wasn't really sticking with me. I've tried like grammar flashcards. Like I haven't really found a way that I like grammar yet. So what I probably should do is just read a grammar primer and then just go back to immersing. I don't think I'm going to really learn it out of a resource, but I need to be aware of some of that stuff existing. So because of the really high vocab and the really low grammar, I feel like I look at a tweet and I can see like a ton of stuff I recognize, and then I can't read it at all because I don't know the grammar. So I'm like, well, it's getting there. So even though that's kind of related to reading, I feel like vocab is sort of like a different skill, and I feel like that's gone like way up. Like that is definitely what I've accomplished the most in the last 6 months. My vocab has gone way up. According to like the kanji grid that comes from Kaishi 1.5K, I know 800-ish kanji, which is a lot. That's like way more than I ever knew before. I would guess in college Japanese, I probably didn't know more than 200, maybe 300. Now I've got like, I recognize like 800, like, and I noticed by the time that I was getting to the end of Kaishi, that I can recognize, like sometimes if I see two kanji together that I don't know the reading of, I can sometimes either figure out the meaning or the reading or both. Like I can look at it and I can say, well, like usually when that kanji is paired with another kanji, it's this reading or whatever. And I've started to be able to do that like a little bit intuitively with kanji I know. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of crazy. It definitely feels like the mental barrier for kanji for me has definitely been like knocked down. Like I don't feel as intimidated by kanji anymore, which is great. Because I think that's like the thing that stops probably most people from learning Japanese. So yeah. And then I guess listening level is probably like the main one to talk about. I think it's been slow going for me. It really depends on what I listen to. I think with Teppei and Noriko, which is kind of like the main like low level thing I listen to, I think it's increasing lately, but overall, maybe like 60 to 70%. I find I know a lot of the words that they're saying now, like most. I'd say probably majority. Maybe not majority. I don't know. I feel like I recognize a lot of words that they say. And I can like pick out some grammar that they're using. But like in terms of like putting the sentence together in my head and being actually aware of like what they're fully saying, that's like still too hard. I need a lot more listening, I think. I can usually figure out the topic pretty easily now. And that's probably like most conversations. Like I feel like I can figure out what people are talking about just through common vocab. But like kind of what's being said and like how they're talking about it, the nuance, it's still hard. So decent. Listening is going decent, but I need more input basically. So okay, this is sort of an extension of the last one, but things I've noticed. So this isn't necessarily like levels, but this is like particular things I've noticed or like recommendations or observations I would want new learners to know. The main one, well, actually, first one's just a funny one. When I started increasing my reading, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, because I was doing pretty much no reading immersion before I finished Kaishi. I was doing mostly listening. I would watch things with subtitles, but I wasn't doing any explicit like reading. I wanted to wait until I was done with Kaishi for that. I wanted to have more of a base of vocab. So I still wanted to immerse. I was still doing a lot of immersion. Just in terms of reading, I wanted to wait a little bit. So I started reading like more like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I immediately started running into readings and forms that I'd just never seen. For example, like when I was testing my OCR tools, I played the newest Toho game, Toho 20. And I was just basically, you know, trying to read what I could of the characters' dialogue between levels. And like, for example, I had never seen the kanji form of anata. And I was like, what the hell is this? Like, don't usually people write that just in kana? And I started seeing that kind of thing like everywhere immediately, like people writing in kana for stylistic choice or emphasis or whatever, or writing a Japanese word in katakana or whatever, or kanji readings that I've never seen before, or kanji that I've never seen to use a word I've seen before. I was like, this is gonna just be a lot. And that felt like a pretty much immediate reinforcement of like, this is why you immerse. You have to see those things, because unless you have a flashcard deck of every word ever invented, you're never going to see those forms in use until you run into them and you don't know what they are. So that was like an immediate like reinforcement of like, this is why you immerse, because you need to see these things being used in real language. So that was like funny to immediately run into that. The other thing too is that since in some places they'll write words that I've only seen in kanji in kana for effect or whatever, and I'm still learning to distinguish grammar patterns, it kind of just makes the sentence look like soup, because I'm kind of expecting, because of the way that kaishi is, which is most words are in the kanji form, I'm still usually expecting kanji now. Like, it's almost like I got the reverse problem. Excuse me, I keep itching my nose. My nose is very itchy today. It's almost like I have the reverse problem now. I think early on, everyone's like afraid of kanji, so they want the words in kana. But because I've just gone through all of kaishi, I'm just expecting most words to be in kanji now. And it's actually the reverse problem where I'm like, why isn't this written in kanji? I miss the kanji. Like, I actually like, I feel like I really understand like why kanji exists now and why I want it to be there. Especially as someone who's not very good at grammar yet, so I can't distinguish the grammar patterns, or I'm struggling to do so. So that was just kind of funny. I feel like I've flipped it. Now I want the kanji. Like, give me the kanji. It helps me like understand where words are. So that's kind of funny. The main one I want to get to, everyone recommends just anime, watching a lot of anime. I found pretty quickly that anime was really hard and that live action TV was way easier. Like, way easier. Live action shows have like way more visual context, which not only helps you understand the plot more of like what you're watching, it helps you like tolerate the ambiguity more. Like, that just helps you like enjoy it more because you don't know what they're saying. A lot of times in anime, especially in slice of life anime, which is always what's recommended first, you get scenes where the characters are not moving and their mouths are moving, that's it, and they're just talking, and you don't get any visual context for what's going on. And so because of that, like, yeah, it's good for like raw listening because you really have to pay attention to try to figure out what they're saying, but it can make tolerating the ambiguity really shitty because you don't know what the hell's going on. And in live action, especially with actual action shows, way less of a problem. You can see what's literally happening on the screen all the time. You know, humans are very like expressive, and they, you know, a lot of shows have really good direction. And so you can kind of like see what's happening just visually, let alone like with the dialogue. I find it also helps me understand the dialogue a little better too. So honestly, to be very real, I know if you really like anime and you really want to watch a lot of anime, it will work. Dude, if you're not sold on anime, go live action. I enjoyed the live action stuff I watched way more. I thought it was way easier to at least tolerate as a learner. So that's like maybe the biggest point I'd like to make for this whole video is like, yeah, man, live action stuff goes hard. That stuff is good. Last observation. Now that I have finished Kaishi 1.5K, I'm noticing my vocab and kanji comprehension is way above my grammar, as I just mentioned. I'd say relative to my level, doing all of Kaishi was actually almost overstudying because of now the grammar difference. So yeah, again, as I mentioned. So I definitely can tell that grammar is what I need to like shore up, especially while I'm starting up like a mining deck. I really need to like at least get all the way through a grammar primer so I can like really start to get it from immersion, because my grammar feels very behind based on where I am. So all right, and the last section, future approach. What am I doing going forward? So my main like actual like hard goal in terms of Japanese was to play games in Japanese. Like, I want that to be my main form of immersion, because it sort of feels to me as someone who plays video games, if further down the line I can get to the point where I can just play most or all games in Japanese, then the immersion sort of snowballs. Like, if I'm already going to be playing games in Japanese anyway, or if I'm already going to be playing games anyway, if I just do it in Japanese, that's just going to rack up a lot more time. So that's the goal. I intentionally did not start playing any games yet until I finished Kaishi, because that's a lot of reading. That's the main reason, actually. So I have just now started playing games in Japanese. I have started, I tried to start Dragon Quest VIII, which is often recommended for first timers on 3DS. I got it all set up. I was doing it, but I found that the lookups were still a little bit hard. I am using like the Yomitan like lookup plugin majority of my mining. Highly recommend, definitely use it. But it's hard to do that because like you have to look up what you're looking at on the 3DS, which is a little bit of a pain. Dragon Quest VIII does have full furigana, but it's still a little too much looking, like manual looking up and like typing to like be able to actually really get through it at any speed. So I switched over to Ni no Kuni, which is recommended for first time learners. And I can use an OCR tool for that. Yomi Ninja is what I'm using. Amazing tool, very cool. If you're playing games in Japanese, I highly recommend it. It's freaking awesome, especially because you can connect it to Yomitan and automatically make flashcards to Anki, which is so sick, like amazing. So that's made doing lookups way easier. So I'm gonna stick with Ni no Kuni and see if I can get through that. My actual original goal was to just get through one game. So, and I think I'll be able to do it with Ni no Kuni. It'll take me a while, I think, but so far the dialogue is, I think, at the right level for what I should be reading right now. It's relatively basic, has full furigana, a lot of words that I recognize, like lots. So I feel like I'm kind of doing like the N+1 sentence thing. Yeah, it seems like a good level for a first game. And I think they'll get me a lot of reading and listening because it has voice acting as well. So love that. So yeah, we're gonna try that out. I want games to be my main form of immersion going forward, but we'll see how that works. Like I just mentioned, I have started a mining deck. Actually, for like a little bit, I am not doing new words, just for like 2 weeks while I figure out what I want to do for grammar. And then once I'm done with that, just because I need some time to actually build the mining deck. So that's the only reason. I'm just doing Kaishi reviews right now. That'll probably be done in like 2 weeks. Not reviews, just like I'll be starting the mining deck. And for the mining deck, I'm mostly just focusing on common words and high priority like vocabulary first. Just because I feel like I don't want to fall into that trap of adding like every single word you see ever. The Yomitan pop-up dictionaries describe words as like high priority, or they have like the priority number or whatever, the frequency number, that's what it is. So I just go based off of those for whether I'm going to add a card or not. Yeah, I pull sentences right now from like Ni no Kuni or whatever game I'm playing, or if I'm doing like a lookup somewhere where there's not really a sentence, I'll actually just add because I do sentence cards, so I'll add the sentence from the pop-up dictionary as my example sentence. So that's working pretty well. Yeah. So yeah, starting my mining deck up. I'm gonna just see what I can do with that. We'll see how it works over the next few months. I was trying a Take Him grammar deck, but the more I think about it, the more I think I just need to do a grammar primer and then just immerse more. I don't think I need to spend more time like grinding vocab. We'll see. Maybe I'll disagree with that after I read the grammar primer, and if I still feel like I don't know what's going on or I'm not acquiring grammar very fast, maybe I'll try it again. But I think I'm going to switch back and try another primer. So yeah. And in terms of going forward, like actual amount per day, I'm technically lowering my required amount to 1 hour a day. But what I mean by that is most days I'm going to be playing Ni no Kuni or games for more than that time anyway. So an hour is like a minimum, more than like a only do an hour per day, if that makes sense. I expect to do more than an hour per day. I'm also adding Friday in, so that should actually bring the average up as well, because I'm not excluding Friday anymore. I feel like there's just no point at this point to do that. I wanna have all 7 days. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense with that. I'm also trying to just increase my daily time overall, so I'm like integrating it more into my daily activities. I've already essentially been doing this, but I'm basically making it now. So for example, like all my highway driving time is now listening, like every time. Like it doesn't matter how much I've done for the day. If I'm on the highway, I'm doing listening. Like that's gonna be like a new like thing I'm gonna try to do. Or like gaming, I'm gonna try to like do a certain amount of it, kind of like every day, every other day. So I think the average will actually go up, even though I've set the daily minimum lower. It's emphasis on minimum. I want to be doing more than that, but I need at least an hour a day. With like Fridays, that'll be more than what I was doing before. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm gonna do another one of these at 9 months. I'll try to do the 3-month update because that's what everybody does. Going forward, I've kind of made some like milestones. I feel like the most obvious thing to do is try the JLPT. I don't really know how explicitly I'm going to target it, but after certain amounts of hours, I'm gonna kind of like look at the prep stuff for each level and see like, okay, do I feel like I could take this? Do I feel like I should study for it? Not. I don't know if I'll necessarily take like N5 or N4, but if I got to like N3 level or something like that, maybe I would actually consider like really going and taking it. It's not an explicit goal, but I think a lot of people, including me, like having like a number, like, oh, I'm N3, N2, whatever, right? I think a lot of people like having that, but honestly, I just want to like get a lot of hours. Like, just, I've been trying to come up with a more hard concrete goal, which is why I've got these sort of like milestone hours. So the next one would be like 300 hours, which is I'm pretty close to. But I'm still kind of working out like how I want to structure my goals. Getting through Kaishi was like such an like a hard, good goal to get through. And when I finished it, I was kind of like, well, shit, now I gotta keep going. But like, what's my goal now? So yeah, I mean, I'd like to finish Ni no Kuni. That would be a great like milestone to finish a whole game in Japanese. But otherwise, like, I need to kind of figure out what my actual like real goal is going forward. I have a lot of things I want to use Japanese for, but I need like a studying goal to like target, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's my thoughts. I talked for a long time. My throat hurts. I need to edit this down. But yeah, follow me on Blue Sky if you care about following this specifically. I only post about this stuff on Blue Sky right now. That's kind of where I've been documenting my Japanese study. Check out my main channel if you want. If you like Japanese rhythm games, yeah, let's go. But otherwise, yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on my immersion process so far. I think it's going pretty well. I would like just more raw time, but I don't want to burn myself out. So I'm going to try to keep going at a sort of slow and steady pace and do what I think I can do, because I think that's the best in the long run. It doesn't really matter if it takes me a long time, if it works in the end, I think. So yeah, that's kind of about it. Feel free to leave a comment if you're curious about anything I use or study with. Or if you just want to talk about your progress. I'm always like super interested in that. I actually don't know too many people who are learning Japanese, so I'm always really interested to interface with like the Japanese like learning community and just see like what people are doing and like what they're learning. So, and I think as I go, I'm only going to get more interested in that. So yeah, I'm curious to hear anyone's thoughts on my experience or your experience. So yeah, I think that's about all from me, and thanks for watching if you watched to the end, and good luck with your Japanese study if you're doing it as well. Bye bye.